And I
What
know
about the Hamilton penalty then?
yes, and this I will happily talk about for a good 5 minutes because it deserves a conversation.
So Hamilton and Giovinazzi get a 10-second stop-go penalty for entering the pit lane when it was closed.
Yes. So I think there's two ways you can look at this. So bear with me 1 second, and you guys, listeners, you can look at this from a racing's perspective and what an advantage he has gained by boxing under, when the pit lane was closed. He obviously saved a lot of time, managed to come out in P2 or P3 with new tyres on, and was set for the rest of the race. I feel like if you're looking at it from a racing perspective, it's almost the same as speeding when you're coming into the pit box. You get a slap on the wrist, maybe plus 5 seconds, or a drive-through penalty at most. I think the penalty was so severe because it's safety, and it was a safety concern. The pit lane was closed because there were people walking about. There was a car being moved into the pit lane. Marshals putting you could almost say putting their lives at risk by standing on a track where there's cars going around quite fast, in the hazard zone at least.
Marshals are always putting their lives at risk.
Absolutely.
Everybody does who's involved, really, to some extent.
And fair play to them. They put a lot of time and effort into those roles, and a lot of them do it for free as well. But Hamilton went through the pit lane when it was closed. He put those people at unnecessary risk. They closed that pit lane for a reason. So I think the 10-second penalty was due to the safety of, the rule, the ruling that the pit lane was closed for a safety reason, and he drove into it. So I think it was a bit harsh. He was P2 or P3, sorry, after the red flag, and no, he was P1, wasn't he? He was P1 after the red flag. I'm looking to you, Alex.
Yeah,
yeah, he was P1. So I think a drive-through penalty would have put him at the back of the grid, which is exactly what the stewards would have wanted, to him to take back the advantage he had gained. But a 10-second stop
you
and
wanted
go.
you wanted him to get a drive-through instead of a stop-go.
Yeah. I don't think it warranted a added time onto the end, because Hamilton could make up that deficit within a couple of laps. If it was 5 or 10 seconds, he could have made that up. But I thought it was going to be a drive-through, not a 10-second stop and go. When was the last time you saw a 10-second stop and go? Apart from the video game.
I think the thing about the 10-second stop and go, yeah, you've already made the case for the safety argument, and that's that, of course, it is potentially very dangerous to be doing that. However, there's also the fact that someone may try and, sort of game the system to gain an unfair advantage. There's quite a few examples of people doing clever things. It makes me think of when Michael Schumacher had a penalty and he served it on the final lap of the race, but crossed the finish line in the process.
Interesting.
And so he won a race by crossing the racing line in the pits. He was officially the winner. Obviously, that's a different set of circumstances, but it makes me think of there's the potential for somebody to gain quite a considerable unfair advantage by entering the pit lane when it's closed.
By playing the game.
That's another reason why they might want to just say, look, the punishment for this has got to be slam it down. Because I don't think there is this assertion that the stewards are sort of making it up as they go along. There may be some of that going on. I'm not a steward, and I don't know any, so I don't really know. But they're following the guidelines that are set out. They're following the rules that are in the program. So that's presumably been decided as the punishment for safety reasons, but also because it's there is the potential to gain quite a significant advantage, and the 10-second stop go has got to be for the most serious infractions in both of those areas.
Absolutely. And Giovinazzi
it happens so rarely as well. So.
Yeah, of course. And Giovinazzi got his penalty first. Because that was
because of incompetence too. It happened because of incompetence in both cases.
Yeah,
and incompetence that is potentially dangerous is just not acceptable in Formula One. You have to come down hard on it so that there's no danger of it happening.
And
I think people will be looking for those pit lane closed things from now on.
Oh yeah, it won't be...
Fair play to all the teams that did.
Absolutely. I don't know how else to explain it. You've done a really good job. You've hit the nail on the head there. People will now be looking for those signs, even if they are on the left-hand side of a track whilst pulling 3G around the right-hand corner.
I know what you mean by saying that the drive-through is potentially just as bad in that situation, but that for me means that I think it is kind of justified. It's the most harsh possible penalty, really, aside from disqualifying them. It would be harsh if they disqualified him. Then it would be harsh.
To be fair,
he didn't really.
I almost thought they were going to do that at one point, just because it was taking so long. I thought they must be edging on something quite bad here. But then,
that would be harsh. Yeah.